The Navy's Officer Candidate School, or OCS, at Naval Station Newport, Rhode Island, is an intensive 13-week course that transforms civilians and fleet enlisted sailors into naval leaders. Selection is competitive, and those accepted into the program will be challenged mentally and physically as they develop character and competence. As the Navy's future leaders, candidates must demonstrate integrity, accountability, initiative, and toughness to earn their commission as a naval officer. The OCS training program has 3 phases: indoctrination, academic, and applied leadership.
In the Indoc phase, sometimes we'll call that like the militarization or the indoctrination phase, right? It's all about learning the very basic procedures of being in the military. So things like how to wear your uniform, how to address people of a certain rank, how to do proper greetings, things like that. Then when you get to the officer candidate phase, the goals change quite a bit, right? So now you're learning specific naval knowledge. So you'll take classes in naval engineering and weapons systems, naval history, cyber warfare.
At OCS, students are expected to arrive mentally and physically prepared for a rigorous program. Physical training is conducted 5 days a week and consists of running, sprinting, and high-intensity interval training. Students will complete 4 physical fitness tests, with the first week's test completion allowing candidates to commence training in the OCS program.
Prior to coming here, I never worked out in the morning. I was always an afternoon exerciser. So adapting to the 5 a.m. workout schedule was really rough in the beginning, especially because they take coffee away from you. But they have a very unique way of motivating you, even when you're half asleep. So you get used to it pretty quickly.
Hurry up! Yes, ma'am!
I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they look up what the physical readiness standards are, and they think that if they can meet those for their age group, that they're going to be set. But my advice would be to make sure that you can exceed them, because you're not just going to be doing PRTs here. You are going to be pushed physically every single day, and do burpees. That's my other suggestion, do burpees.
So I was a big runner, Chief, especially during COVID. I had picked up triathlon and marathon running. So that was something I was doing a lot. But what I was neglecting was high intensity interval training. So before coming here, I had a lieutenant that I worked with, and he said, you can be the best runner you want, but when you get to OCS, if you're not good at high intensity interval training, you're gonna have a hard time. So I took that information to heart and started doing HIIT workouts about 4 to 5 months before coming here, and they've paid dividends.
Military indoctrination begins upon arrival. Before one can lead, one must learn to follow. OCS incorporates U.S. Marine Corps drill instructors, or DIs, on staff. They are charged with ensuring candidates are able to follow orders with strict discipline, execute marching and rifle drills, and possess attention to detail.
When I'm instructing drill for them, I'm letting them understand the instant willingness, obedience to orders that they're going to expect from their junior sailors and sailors in general under their charge. So when I'm teaching drill, it's teaching them, the discipline and military burden, but it's also instant willingness, obedience to orders. At a split second, they're able to accomplish the task at hand, and that's what they're going to expect from their sailors out in the fleet.
I think definitely the drill instructors bring an element of discipline. That's foundational. They instill that in you from the very beginning. We are taught to be leaders, but we also need to know when it's appropriate to follow. And having a drill instructor present to teach you how to have that discipline, even when you think that you've reached your limit, I think was foundational to all of us becoming better officers in the fleet.
Officers are expected to demonstrate and uphold standards. A candidate's ability to learn strict attention to detail is paramount, as their standards are frequently inspected. The room, locker, and personnel inspection is an evaluation of militarization standards conducted during the indoctrination phase, and is one of the first major inspections a candidate must pass.
The ROP inspection, room, locker, personnel inspection, is for the candidates to be able to execute certain tasks under a stressful environment. So we're putting through them a lot of stressors. They're being screamed at. They're having to do strenuous exercises. And then being able to answer basic knowledge questions that they've learned only in the past 5 days to a week is something that we expect them to move on to in further training. So once they complete the RLP, now the staff here at OCS is confident that they're going to be able to go and leave the Indoc phase behind and become a junior officer candidate.
Definitely the most difficult part for me was the leg lifts. You know, you do what you can to prepare physically, but you never really can take into account fully just how much stress and 7-pound boots on each foot are really going to hinder your performance. My best advice would be to start studying the verbatim knowledge early on, because there's a big difference between knowing something and then knowing it well enough to be able to regurgitate it verbatim while you're being screamed at, while you're being PT'd, while you're under duress. So know that, because people tend to do kind of weird things when they're stressed out and in a strange environment. So in order to perform at the best of your ability, know the verbatim knowledge like the back of your hand.
No one is going to be perfect at every single aspect of RLP because there's so many different parts to it. There's some things that only you can do. For example, the physical aspect, no one else can do that but you. But in terms of practicing knowledge, making sure that you're doing your verbatim knowledge correctly, getting all of your folds right, getting your socks right, getting your PT stack perfectly 12 inches, all these absolute minute details that go into the RLP inspection, no one is going to be perfect. And I think that's the point. It's not only testing you, but it's testing how well you can reach out to others and say, hey, I don't know the answer to this. I don't know how to do this effectively. I need help. Because no one's ever going to have all the answers wherever you go. And for something that you want to collectively pass as a group, you need to be there to support each other. And this is the first true event where you really do need to rely on each other to get yourselves ready. And then you by yourself need to put out and perform the day of. That's the most important thing that I learned from RLP.
Once a candidate has successfully completed the rigorous trials of the indoctrination phase, they are promoted to the rank of officer candidate and transition to the second phase of training, academics. The academic phase builds on the indoctrination phase, and candidates take on an extensive academic workload, including engineering and weapons fundamentals, naval history, seamanship, operations, damage control and firefighting, and maritime navigation. In the officer candidate phase, candidates progress from learning how to follow and work as a team to beginning to lead. Before one can lead others, one must be able to lead themselves, and time management is critical to OCS's high-stress environment.
It is a really hard workload balance, definitely. The good thing is that we're all coming from college at some point, so we have the ability to manage an academic life as well as an extracurricular life. I think that played a huge role into it, but the system is really designed to push you to your limit. So in this phase, it's a lot about those academics, so they pack your schedule. And you have to be really good at carving out that time on your own because no one's going to do it for you.
If you think you have time to yourself, you don't. So you're studying. You're at the chow hall, you're waiting for your shipmates to sit down, you're studying. If you're in class and the instructor is not there yet, you're studying. If you can get through staying awake in class, come back to the hatch and study, you're going to be okay.
The transformation of a candidate into a naval officer would be incomplete without the close training and mentoring of some of the Navy's most experienced deck plate leaders, Chief Petty Officers. Only Chief Petty Officers can serve as Recruit Division Commanders, or RDCs, at OCS, and they are entrusted to develop these candidates into the Navy's future leaders.
I wanted to help develop leaders in the future. The difference between Great Lakes and here is that my boot camp was different when I went through. My whole job was, they train you to be a leader, but you're more here, you're following orders, right? When you go on board a ship as a naval officer, you're not going to have many people that are going to hold your hand. You need to make the decisions. You need to be able to take charge and take that leadership in that role. And as a chief, when I went through my select phase, I learned about all that through my time in the Navy. So I wanted to make sure that we help develop naval officers to understand that that is the role they're going to be taking. We're not going to hold their hand through this process, but we're going to develop them and make sure that they take the role in times and situations when they need to take control and take charge, that they will.
And the RDCs, I mean, they know the Navy. So with regards to Navy knowledge, procedures, all of those things that you need to know that are Navy-based, like your uniform, you're not going to get away with anything shy of perfection when it comes to your interactions with an RDC.
Our RDCs brought a level of passion and commitment and excitement about his job and a level of professionalism that's inspired everyone in our class to do better. All of us want to be the sailor and the junior officer for the future that our chief would want to work with. I think that one of the most important things that an RDC brings is their prior relationships with other junior officers. They've worked with junior officers from all types, both before they became a chief as a junior enlisted, all the way up to the present time. And they know what they want to see in junior officers moving forward. That's why it's so important to have them as our primary instructors. They know what makes a good officer, know what makes a bad officer. And they want to see every single candidate under command leave in the former category. They want to see good officers leave the fleet because they know in the future, all of us in our class and every candidate that comes to this school is going to be leading junior sailors just like he was. And he wants to do the best for them, not only the best for us, but every other sailor in the fleet.
Each OCS class is led by a fleet lieutenant, known as the class officer. Class officers set the standard for candidates training and transition from the first day they report to OCS.
When it came time to select my shore duty, I specifically asked the detailer. I wanted to do something where I could be in a mentoring role. I wanted to be able to impact kind of the Navy's future. I feel like I have a good personality for being able to connect with the candidates, the young officers, things like that. So I wanted to come here to be able to make a good impression on the next generation of the Navy's officers.
The class officer is very different. They take kind of that back seat. They mentor you. They teach you how to be a leader. I had a great teaching moment with my class officer actually just the other day. I was reaching out to him because there was a conflict in the schedule, and my words to him were, "How would you like me to proceed?" And in 4 simple words, he said, "What do you suggest?" And that was when some kind of light bulb really clicked. And I was like, I need to learn how to be able to come up with my own solutions and present them. And that was a really valuable teaching moment.
We're observing someone who's genuinely passionate for his job and passionate at improving the mission and the people that he's currently supporting under him. And so when we become officers, we should all carry that same exuberance for our own jobs and make sure that we can inspire our sailors the same way. That's what I'm most grateful for, that our class officer has brought.
The final event of the officer candidate phase is Battle Stations. Battle Stations is an all-day crucible event that challenges candidates to use everything they've learned, drawing on leadership and problem-solving skills, teamwork, and toughness to overcome obstacles. Candidates must demonstrate their skills in firefighting and damage control, seamanship, water survival, and officership to successfully complete Battle Station.
Battle Stations is the last event that they'll undergo before they transition from officer candidate phase into Candio phase. So it's a physical event. It lasts all day and it's several phases.
It pushes you mentally, physically, just like everything else here. But it is very much a team sport. Your class team is involved. The Candios from the senior class is involved. So it has a really fun sense of camaraderie that goes along with it.
So that is an experience that I would tell you that I will never forget. So you're actually, you're up way earlier than the usual 5 o'clock morning PT. And from the moment that you wake up, you're just put in a stressful environment. You're trying to account for all your shipmates. You're trying to, stick with your battle buddy. You're being yelled at, you're working out. You're just doing so much in the span of a time that, so from the moment you wake up, it's go time.
Upon completion of battle stations, officer candidates are promoted to candidate officer and advance to the applied leadership phase. Candidate officers have the opportunity to exercise the leadership and team building skills they have built over the previous phases by having oversight over the entire OCS regiment.
In all the earlier phases, you have a lot of little responsibilities to carry your kill card, to lock your 2 drawer, to tuck your shoelaces in. Now you have immense responsibilities, not as immense as they'll be in the fleet, but immense for officer candidate school, making sure people get fed, med bods, making sure people get to medical appointments, the Commodore and the Deputy Commodore making sure that the whole squadron runs smoothly. We are in candidate officers, as Senior Chief Hobgood said, this place wouldn't run without us. We are in charge of the daily flow of this place, and so that's an immense responsibility. And so it's OCS's a final goodbye of teaching us how to deal with stress, responsibility, and trying to translate that to what we're going to see in the fleet.
We call candidate officer phase the applied leadership phase. That is when we're not only responsible for ourselves and our peers, but we also take on a leadership role in being responsible for our juniors, the other classes. We're now the senior class at OCS, and we're responsible for their development in every way. We're responsible for ensuring they're following all policies, all regulations, and for ensuring that they have the resources they need in order to develop and are getting the support they need. Right now, every single night that I can, I'm heading over. I'm part of the SOC staff. So what that means is I'm supporting primarily the senior officer candidates. So every single night I'm going over there and helping them prepare for their big inspections, which are OPI and navigation. And those are known as some of the big killers in the SOC phase. But that's not the only thing I do. And that's because every single person in our class who has a billet or any kind of role, they can expect that they'll be doing that role primarily, but everywhere else that there's something that needs to happen, we're going to support it. We need to be as flexible as we can. Right now, I guarantee you that after this is over, I'm going to look at my phone and there's about 20 messages in there with at least 3 fires to put out. And we're all going to work collectively as a group to do it. So what we're learning is, through the applied leadership phase, is how to support others in their development and the execution of the mission from a leadership perspective, and also how to work together with the wardroom to execute that mission and all the flexibility that's needed in order to make that happen. We're truly coming together as a team for this.
The culmination of all phases of training at OCS results in a candidate officer raising their right hand and taking the oath of office, officially being appointed an ensign. They are now ready to serve with honor, courage, and commitment, and proceed to their follow-on schools and operational duty all around the world as a U.S. Navy officer.
So OCS graduates, compared to other commissioning sources, in my opinion, are typically a little bit more squared away. We really drill into them the importance of formality and respect for kind of the rank structure. They've been in this high stress environment surrounded by officers and senior level enlisted leaders for months at this point. And so I think they're really good at showing up on day one and sort of being in the right mindset to start learning and developing themselves as a naval leader.
I would say it means a lot more than words can explain. For me personally, if I've had more people tell me I wasn't gonna make it, I wasn't gonna get selected into OCS, then people actually helping me and actually saying, you know what, you will get selected. So being here and being so close to the finish line, knowing, what I came from, what it took to get here, it means a lot. You also, you take an oath. So knowing that I'm going to take that oath and, hold myself to those standards every day. So I would say it, I can sit here and I can say, it means this and means that. But honestly, words will never be able to explain the feeling because it took so much to get to this point. And to know that now I'll be able to, coming in, you're like, oh, I want to be the change, or I want to do this, but you're not actually doing it. So now when you actually put your package in, you get accepted, you go through the program, now is your time to actually have that opportunity to be the change that you've always said you wanted to be. And, to help and guide sailors that were once in your shoes trying to put in a package but didn't have that help.
I'm very excited for it though. I kind of feel like the top of one mountain is always the bottom of the next. So I am looking forward to the challenge. It's going to be a gear shift, definitely. But the way that I look at it is if I was able to shift gears and take on OCS, I can take on anything.
When a staff member says ears, we say open. I've been at the bottom of the barrel before. I'm okay going back there as an officer. And I know that I don't intend to be the officer, the prior enlisted, that carries myself around with a little bit of swagger because I already know how things are. I intend to keep my ears nice and open. I intend to learn as I go along. And I intend to take in as much information as I can and utilize the experience of those who have been there before and who have lived through this experience in order to become a better officer and a better person. I want to take as many opportunities as I can to learn my trade and to learn how to be an effective leader so that I can one day be the person developing those junior sailors and helping them along this path, like I am in the Candio phase.
The men and women that graduate from officer candidate school depart with a sense of purpose and understanding of what it means to be a naval officer, worthy of that special trust and confidence that we place in them. They have what it takes to be successful. By applying the lessons learned here at OCS out in the fleet, they will lead sailors and be members of the greatest Navy the world has ever seen.